On the eve of World War II, the U.S. War Department was worried that the aerial assaults employed with increasing frequency across the Atlantic could soon spread to the United States. The defense industry was concentrated in a few cities along the coasts. A single attack on one of these centers would be extremely costly. American lives could be lost, and the country's limited defense production capacity could be decimated. With national anxiety escalating, President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his military planners urged defense contractors to spread their operations out of these established industrial centers. This policy, known as dispersion, encouraged new defense facilities to be built inland in areas less vulnerable to aerial attack. In 1941, Arizona's first large defense facility, Goodyear Aircraft Corporation, opened west of Phoenix at Litchfield Park. Within a few years, several other defense plants located within Greater Phoenix, notably the Aluminum Company of America and Air Research Manufacturing Company, in cooperation with the government's Defense Plant Corporation. While these defense companies were here, Arizona itself experienced this national threat firsthand when on 3 separate occasions in 1945, Japanese bomb-carrying balloons known as Fugo were found crashed near Nogales and Gila Bend. When the war ended, so did the demand for military goods. In 1945, Goodyear and Air Research closed their doors in Arizona, and Luke Air Force Base, just built in 1941, ceased operations. Arizona was at a crossroads. Many civic leaders were happy to return to their pre-war economic pursuits, primarily reliant on Arizona's 5 C's: copper, cotton, cattle, citrus, and climate. However, as the Cold War set in and the threat of nuclear attack intensified, the push to spread U.S. defense production assets throughout the country regained traction. In August 1951, while mobilization for the Korean War was underway, President Truman announced a national policy for industrial dispersion. Having already proven its value in defense production during World War II, Arizona stood poised to benefit from this policy again. But convincing Arizonans of the opportunity dispersion posed required strong leadership. Enter Carl Hayden, Arizona's senior senator, who led a 2-pronged effort to rebuild the state's defense industry. He worked with leaders throughout the state to get free land for military planners to use as airfields and proving grounds. For instance, the city of Phoenix helped bring Luke Air Force Base back to the valley by purchasing the land it is now on and leasing it back to the government for just $1 per year. A seemingly minute investment then brings $2.1 billion into Arizona's economy today. Hayden also worked with Senator Barry Goldwater and local and federal leaders to support more defense spending and draw that money toward his home state.
An environment where you have lower wages, maybe 20-25% in some cases lower wages than in the East Coast and the Midwest, and you have a favorable tax structure that emerges where manufacturing, products that manufacturing, the state legislature wisely lowered taxes at that time. So you have large federal spending continuing, the establishment of all these air bases in Phoenix and around Tucson and Yuma. Can't forget the Yuma Marine Air Station down there. And with that, all of the necessary private sector electronics and aerospace industries that go along with them. So it was almost like World War II came to Arizona and it stayed on.
Each understood the importance of landing federal contracts for Arizona. As Goldwater said, if we want manufacturers' payrolls in this area, we must, as in any other business, create a demand. These forward-thinking leaders understood that export-related assets like military bases and manufacturing plants would bring in millions of dollars to the state economy. But competition for defense industries was fierce. A remote agricultural area on the San Francisco Peninsula, known today as Silicon Valley, drew more than 53 electronics and engineering companies during this period, including GE, Hewlett-Packard, and Lockheed Aircraft Corporation. And cities surrounding Phoenix, such as Albuquerque, Austin, Dallas, and Houston, each saw their fair share of welcome newcomers. In response, Arizona's state and local leaders devised strategies to entice these export industries and the higher wages that came with them. Working together, they were able to leverage federal low-cost financing and loan guarantee programs that were available through the Defense Plant Corporation, and received active support from Arizona's congressional leadership. At the state level, they initiated a massive overhaul of Arizona's tax system to lure companies. They eliminated the tax on manufacturing inventory. They lowered assessment rates for machinery and equipment, and they created a tax exemption for warehouse goods.
One of the people I greatly admire who worked hard to attract business here, and maybe a key figure in it statewide was Governor Paul Fannin. Paul Fannin was a businessman who became a politician after he kind of retired from his business. I was a college kid when he ran for office, so I remember him really well. And he was a very just straight up guy. And you thought, he's not like your typical politician that just, you never know if he's blowing smoke or not. But Fannin just was straight, and he had this business background. And so when he became governor, he worked tirelessly to attract business to Arizona.
Governor Paul Fannin led the fight to make Arizona a right-to-work state and organized the Arizona Community Development Advisory Committee, inviting executives from major manufacturing firms to visit the state.
And they had a card that they would carry, and it would talk about the reasons a person would really want to move his or her business to Arizona, including climate, tax situation, a good labor force, including a right-to-work law situation, low unemployment taxes, and the like. You know, a list of 8 or 9 things that would really encourage them to come here. And he said, no, we all have to be together on this, and we can be successful if we all work together, and it worked.
Armed with generous competitive incentive packages, state and local leaders worked tirelessly to recruit aerospace and electronics companies.
When Motorola was looking for places to expand, and expand quickly, they came to Arizona, and what the leaders here offered was the most important thing they could offer, which is cooperation, collaboration. To truly look for ways to have business flourish, not look for ways to have businesses fail. The incentives, the environment, the getting rid of red tape, yet making sure it was done properly, appropriately, and living up to every code and law you can. That kind of spirit of cooperation, collaboration was unique. And that's what really fostered, bringing the electronics and technology industries to Arizona.
Just as important, Governor Fannin was laser-focused on recruiting the second-tier contractors and other allied firms that large electronics and aerospace manufacturers relied on. He hoped once the larger electronic and aerospace companies were anchored in the state, supply chain companies would follow. In many ways, he was one of the first proponents of what is currently called the high-tech cluster. Senator Hayden was widely known for encouraging bipartisan efforts to help create a unified front in improving Arizona's economy.
When my dad first went back to the Senate in 1964, he was 98th in seniority, and he had this little office that was far away from the Senate floor. And he was there a short time, and Senator Carl Hayden called him, who was the other United States Senator, and asked him if he could please, if he would mind moving his office, which my dad had a little closet almost for an office, if he would mind leaving and moving it over to his near Carl Hayden's office. And my dad thought it might be a joke on new senators and kind of paused, and he said, Senator Hayden said, Paul, yes or no? And my dad said yes, and the office was moved over closer to Carl Hayden's. For Senator Hayden's reason was so they could work more closely together for Arizona.
And they each worked to include local representatives in the fight for industry. Just as integral to the industrial fight, Arizona's congressional delegation, namely Congressman John Rhodes and Congressman Mo Udall, both worked with state and local officials to advance infrastructure development critical to economy building, such as the Central Arizona Project.
And the next hurdle was to get a favorable rule so that no member could stand up and in effect blocked the Central Arizona project. Unlike the Senate, in the House, a single member can stand up on a point of order and object to an amendment, and that amendment will be struck. So John Rhodes went to the Speaker of the House, John McCormick, and he brought Stuart Udall, a Democrat, and he was Secretary of the Interior at the time. And they asked for a closed rule for the appropriations bill, which meant that no single member could stand up and object to it. So in 1968, in the latter stages of the congressional session, the Central Arizona project was passed by voice vote. And it was because of John Rhodes' parliamentary ingenuity, if you will, that really saved the day. Lots of people deserve credit for the Central Arizona project, but I know of no one who was around at the time who says that the single most important person responsible for its authorization was John Rhodes.
Simultaneously, Arizona's political and business leaders launched aggressive marketing campaigns. They utilized the National Security Resources Board pamphlets such as "Is Your Plant a Target?" to justify the recruitment of manufacturing firms from congested areas in California and the Midwest. Phoenix business leaders launched national ad campaigns and blanketed the nation with promotional information on Phoenix. Its monthly publication, Phoenix Action, highlighted the city's location, climate, educational institutions, and recreational opportunities. They also supported the overarching recruitment effort with ad campaigns like Industrial Program Hits Full Stride and Chamber Welcomes Visitors to Aviation Parley. Tucson business leaders published pamphlets such as Tucson for Industry and a Way of Life. Safford-Graham County business leader J.W. Moon sent an open letter to more than 1,000 electronics companies and 1,500 aircraft manufacturers. And Governor Fannin and Senator Goldwater took their Arizona story on the road. Touting incentives, a right-to-work state, and a business-friendly climate, they showed images of the modern industrial city rising in the West.
They thought that the best way to promote Arizona, to encourage people to come here, was to have this crusade that would be the crusade of all Arizonans. So when they went away to visit people, their friends in other states, particularly retired executives who were here, who had contacts all over the country, and then of course he set up for the first time of any governor an office a unit right within the governor's office with a sanction by the legislature to have a person and staff dedicated to industrial development.
The competitive business attraction strategy impressed businessmen along the way, including one from El Paso, Texas, who said, "Industrial scouts are met at the plane, entertained, offered free land, tax deals, and an electorate willing to approve millions in business-backed bond issues." He lamented, by comparison, El Paso does nothing. And an industrial city rising it was. In 1948, Daniel Noble of Motorola toured Albuquerque, Los Alamos, Santa Fe, and Tucson, looking for the right site to carry on government engineering research projects. He leased 3,600 square feet in the International Life Insurance Building on North Central Avenue in Phoenix and established the Phoenix Research Laboratory with 5 full-time employees.
Motorola is one of those key industries that came in here early and started really the influx of electronics technology companies here in Arizona. And it was because of those working relationships with members of both parties on both the federal, state, and local levels that Arizona produced an incredible business-friendly atmosphere, an environment for business to thrive, to be creative, to seek out new technologies.
Besides Motorola, other early arrivals to the state included Hughes Aircraft and Sperry Phoenix Company. During the same period, Air Research Manufacturing Company and Goodyear Aircraft returned to the valley. Hughes Aircraft built a 545,000 square foot guided missile facility on more than 2,500 acres adjoining Tucson Municipal Airport. Sperry Phoenix Company was offered 81 acres of land for a factory site located adjacent to Deer Valley Airport. Air Research Manufacturing Company relocated near Sky Harbor. By 1960, the firm employed 3,800 employees. And in 1950, Goodyear Aircraft re-established their presence in the state and reopened their former Litchfield Park plant, eventually employing more than 7,500 people throughout the state, from Prescott to Tucson. These success stories soon translated into help for Arizona's political leadership, as business leaders from newcomers like Motorola and Air Research became some of Arizona's most active ambassadors for the state. As a testament to the important work taking place in Arizona during this period, aerospace and electronics companies were engaged in developing cutting-edge technologies for the U.S. Defense Department and the U.S. military. Carl A. Wiley, a brilliant mathematician at Goodyear Aircraft Corporation, working with a cadre of talented engineers, invented a new aerial reconnaissance technology known as synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. Don Beckerleg, one of the chosen engineers on the project, spent much of his 56-year career developing and improving SAR, a technology employed in the U-2 aircraft and SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. This technology propelled Goodyear into the highest echelons of the defense establishment.
An Air Force major came and knocked on the door one morning, called the CEO to select 3 or 4 of his key engineers. I don't know why I was in that group, but I sure am glad I was. Anyway, he basically secured the room and said, "We've selected you, Goodyear. We've already done our selection. There's no bidding. There's no, you are the one to build a radar. We need a radar to go in this aircraft. Flies this fast, this high. These are the parameters. One of the requirements of the radar must be available for initial flight testing in 1 year," which was a pretty short time from a flat-footed start. He said the specifications for the radar system are build the best radar system you can in 1 year. Here's a big bag of money and we need some more, let me know. So that was about what the contracting effort was there.
Air Research developed the technologies to provide cabin pressure in bombers, such as the B-17 Flying Fortress, allowing it to fly at higher altitudes for long periods. It also developed a more reliable engine cooling system for Air Force planes. Sperry Phoenix made military components, including fire control management and gyroscopic gun platforms. It also made the first commercially available computer, known as the UNIVAC-1. In turn, they recruited some of the world's top scientists and engineers. With Dr. Simon Ramo from California Institute of Technology and Dr. Dean E. Wooldridge from Bell Laboratories, Hughes developed the air-to-air missile Falcon. Motorola recruited engineers and physicists from Purdue University, MIT, and Colorado A&M, and subsequently entered the semiconductor field in 1952. 4 short years later, the Semiconductor Products Division was built and went into large-scale production. One such engineer, William Weiss, moved from Chicago to Phoenix with Motorola, moved up the ranks, and eventually became the company's chief executive officer.
My father was fortunate, as he would tell you, to be on a great team of leaders at Motorola, leaders of vision, who really saw the potential Arizona had to be this great place for creativity and productivity, especially in the electronics industry. It saw leadership that would be there to support you, to help you flourish, to try to decrease the barriers and the red tape, yet making sure that you operated as a principled corporate citizen. And he made decisions to increase that every day. They expanded plants here. They brought new technologies here to Arizona. They found a workforce that they just loved to work with, and also were able to attract tremendous workforce here. Intelligent, skilled labor, researchers from around the world who would want to come to Arizona and work to develop the next new technology. And it certainly didn't hurt that it was a great place to live.
Motorola's programs expanded into solid-state technology and semiconductors used heavily in the military and space programs, notably the Explorer 1. Over the next decade, the plant expanded 5 times and transformed Arizona into a center of semiconductor competency. In order to ensure a continuous pipeline of engineering talent, Motorola's executives, especially Daniel Noble, Paul Galvin, and other business leaders, successfully lobbied the Arizona Board of Regents in 1956 to create a Bachelor of Science in Engineering curriculum at Arizona State College. That same year, General Electric donated one of the nation's most advanced computers to the college, providing a huge boost to the school's reputation as an up-and-coming research institution. With its new computer, an IBM 704, GE built a state-of-the-art computer center and staffed it to teach courses in computer technology. Now, with a budding engineering program and state-of-the-art computing capabilities, Arizona State College was armed with the right tools to make its final push toward university status. On November 4, 1958, Arizona's voters passed by a margin of nearly 2-1 to grant university status to ASC. A month later, Governor Ernest McFarland issued a proclamation officially changing the name of the Arizona State College at Tempe to Arizona State University. These new industry competencies, its university status, and world-class talent thrust Arizona into the national spotlight and transformed Arizona State University from a teaching college into a technology-driven university. The cutting-edge technology being developed in Arizona, coupled with the top talent being either drawn to the region or educated at the new Arizona State University, led to the area's reputation as the hub for aerospace, then electronics, and then semiconductors. Motorola's involvement in advancing higher education extended to the University of Arizona. Tucson's largest employer, Hughes Aircraft, worked with U of A to design the scientific and technical training for its employees and proposed a Master of Science Cooperative Fellowship program for the university's electrical engineering department. Enrollment in its electrical engineering program tripled between 1953 and 1956. Early arrivals like Motorola also worked alongside political and business leaders to identify more companies to recruit. The coordinated and purposeful recruitment of industry into Arizona drew accolades and created tremendous prosperity for Arizonans. During Paul Fannon's 6 years as governor, more than 200 manufacturing plants were added. By 1965, the Manufacturing Directory listed more than 700 companies just in the Phoenix area. And not just small manufacturing facilities that went nowhere. Goodyear Aircraft later became Lockheed Martin. Hughes Aircraft later became Raytheon. Air Research later became Honeywell. And Sperry Phoenix Company later became part of Lockheed and Honeywell. This massive expansion of aerospace and electronics increased the personal income average in Arizona by 296%. And the electronics and aerospace firms that relocated to Arizona received defense contracts, priority treatment, and political support from Senators Goldwater, Hayden, and others, who fought for millions of federal dollars for the state. The influx of industry during this relatively short time period also helped brand the region and laid the foundation for the region's new nickname, the Silicon Desert. This image of the Silicon Desert and the industrial growth that sprouted during this flourishing time period laid the foundation for attracting some of Arizona's signature companies, such as Intel, Dial, Avnet, Mayo Clinic, and U.S. Airways. Transforming Arizona's economy from the 5 C's was a deliberate effort, and a tough one at that. But a coordinated economic development effort among local, state, and federal leaders managed to change Arizona forever. These concerted efforts created a high-tech manufacturing base in the state that lasted nearly 50 years. Today, Arizona stands at another crossroad. The economy is mired by a recession. Our aerospace and electronics industries are under threat, and Arizona is reliant on industries that often produce low-quality jobs. In fact, Arizona's personal income average ranks 43rd in the nation. Very much like the international demand for the aerospace industry in the 40s and 50s, demand for green energy is not only being established at the state level, but is led by federal leaders and worldwide demand. Political and business leaders in the state have taken some initial first steps working in concert, like Paul Fannin, Barry Goldwater, Carl Hayden, and other state leaders did more than a half-century ago. But the race to secure these and other high-wage jobs is by no means over. The recession itself has leveled the playing field among competitor states. While some aspects of Arizona's business, such as its continued right-to-work status and low unemployment and insurance rates, are attractive to companies, other aspects, such as its relatively high business tax burden, ineffective economic development programs, and its underinvestment in education and innovation, are simply not competitive. Although opinions may differ on the means to the end result, Arizonans can all agree on one thing: a necessity for change that not only puts citizens back to work, but provides them with opportunity to earn higher wages and enjoy an overall higher quality of life. Within Arizona's history lies a true success story, an era where federal, state, and local leaders fought for the future of its citizens. These lessons from our past provide us with the key to transforming the future. A set of shared experiences and proven tools with which we can build a coordinated effort that continues our ascension in renewable energy technology, renews our historic strength in aerospace and semiconductor manufacturing, harnesses the national demand for industries such as healthcare and emerging technologies, and cultivates our entrepreneurial spirit to make our state a center for innovation. Armed with economic development programs, direct marketing efforts, and strategic investment in innovation, leaders from both the private and public sectors who can set aside political and social gain and who are willing to fight for what's best for the state and its citizens can make a massive impact. One that can have a lasting effect for the next 30, 50, even 100 years.